It's also amusing that Halloween is nearly coming up because I am not terrified by anything anymore. It's very, very difficult to get me frightened again after everything I've seen and been through, and the knowledge I've gained after traveling with Y and Agrippa. How can you get scared after all that? It's really difficult. Not impossible. I won't rule out the possibility that I could be in a terrifying situation again, but it's going to be very hard for that to happen again. There's nothing more terrifying than waking up with no memory of who you are, only knowing your name and where you came from, where you live, and even not fully understanding that, to having to go through a series of perilous tasks just set forth by your former self because he didn't have the strength to do it himself. And in a way it was a blessing, because then I found out Agrippa, and then I was able to help him. Without that, I probably would have taken out Alexander myself, and Agrippa would have been stuck here forever, or died, which would have been terrible options. But at least there was some good to come out of this. You do not want to have my experiences. As exciting and dramatic as this may seem, worthy of maybe an epic play of sorts, there is no chance that you want to deal with what I dealt with. I understand there is some frustration to the way life can be mundane. It's just the routine, day after day. You go to work or school, and you come home, you do your duties for your household, you spend time with those you love, and then you go to sleep and you repeat the process all over again. And I understand that that's very frustrating, especially if you're in a household that's very chaotic, as I was as a child. But the thing is, as horrible as that was, I was not at least thrown into a situation against a supernatural force I had no idea how to comprehend, and even now still don't. I still don't fully understand the shadow or the orbs, and to be cast in that horrible shadow and constantly followed, hunted down like prey the entire time I was trying to get to Alexander, fixing everything in the castle, things breaking down all around me, being hunted by these monstrous beasts that were out to either capture or kill me, and I had no idea what to do other than to hide and pray that God spares my life, or if one of those creatures did find me, that at least it would be over quick. But I persevered because I knew there had to be something at the end, a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And there was. It was not easy to acquire. It was not easy in any stretch of the imagination. I would not do it again if I had the choice, but I would understand. I guess I would understand that such an epic journey can appeal to some people. It's just actually living it, going through it, having my life on the line every second, my heart pounding in my chest as I felt the very fabric of my mind ripping apart as I heard the most vile noises hunting for me up and down the hallways as I hid in a dark corner, trembling, hoping they wouldn't find me. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Not even Monsieur de Vigny. He and I have had a number of disagreements, violent disagreements in our past before, but I would never wish that on anyone. It was a horrible, horrible experience. Literally had to run and fight for my life. There's nothing more terrifying. Everything in the castle was out to get me, pretty much. And so you understand why you shouldn't want to have my experiences. Go out! Make your own experiences. Go out and enjoy the world in what ways you can. I will never discount traveling, as I did with Herbert and whatnot. It's just Obviously, I can advise people who are into archaeology these days to avoid dealing with an orb or anything of that sort, but it's easy for me to say now, having already dealt with it, but you can never understand until it actually happens to you. And I was never one to really believe in the supernatural. I mean, I am a bit religious, I suppose, but nothing beyond that, and even then, not to a fanatical sort. I never expected this to happen, but nobody could have. I just wish Herbert was here so I could have asked him if he had already known about all this, and Alexander was in his address book. So I am curious how they knew each other, or if Professor Herbert was helping Alexander in some way. I have no idea, and I unfortunately didn't get to ask Alexander any of that while I was there either. And so now that's all water under the bridge, I suppose. What's to be done, other than to reminisce and understand that as monumental and transforming as an experience as that was, I would hope to God I would never have to do that or something like it again. Yes, Alexander is now passed on. I could go on about the fact that he betrayed me, and I understand his frustration for being trapped here for centuries and wanting to get out, but to sacrifice me for it all was despicable, but I probably shouldn't go for much further than that, because I could go into a bit of a rant, and that wouldn't be pleasant or very gentlemanly of me, and I would like to believe I've turned over a new leaf after all of this, and I would like to try to not be so angry all the time. It's a bit difficult. Unfortunately, anger seems to run in my family. But the good news is that my life, as of late, has been quite good. A bit mundane, but I will definitely take mundane over all the other things. Without a doubt. Also, it's hard to be scared of things much when I have Brutus living with me. I still never thought I'd have one of those things in my house, much less go over to Brennenburg to talk to one again, but he's a good friend. He's recently talked to me about the things we can find on this strange device, scary movies, he called them, that we should watch at some point. I don't know, but it sounds very bizarre. I told him I don't think I'll be scared by anything anymore. We'll see what he decides to show me. Bizarre. I've tried to forgive Alexander for years. Well... Let me see if I could have you understand my point of view here. I've tried to look at it from Alexander's perspective, for sure. I really have. It's not like I don't understand where he's coming from. The man was banished for some reason from his homeworld. I don't know for what reason, I don't know if it was justified or not, but he was banished here, and therefore was separated from apparently the love of his life, and was trying to get back home. And he had centuries to try and accomplish this, and he was using torture as a means of extending his own life in order to do this. It's not like he just did it for the fun of it. He did it because he wanted to keep living. And he needed me to keep helping him out with that, otherwise his time would be running short. And the shadow was closing in anyway as well. So I had to keep performing warding rituals to keep the shadow at bay or something. I still don't even know if those actually worked, to be perfectly honest. I think they might have, or Alexander was just setting me up to have the shadow be focused only on me instead of him, but it was already focused on me to begin with. What do I know? But I understand. I get it. As horrible as it was, Alexander is also not one of us. He is not a human. And so these things may not have seemed as monstrous to him as it would to us. Especially to myself, because I am a human carrying this out on other humans, even though I was told they were horrible criminals. That still didn't justify it. And especially when I learned afterwards that a lot of these so-called criminals weren't criminals at all. I wonder if any of them even were. But, see, this is the thing. It's not like I spent an enormous time in Brenneburg, so it's not like Alexander and I formed a super deep bond. But we did become friends on some level. I was there for probably, let's see, about a month or so, I would say something like that. I can't remember exactly. I put my diary somewhere. I've tried to put the whole situation out of mind, so it's been a little while since I've remembered the exact details, but the idea is we became friendly over the course of all this, especially through our shared interests in using the orb to escape the shadow, especially since Alexander's problems now... My problems became Alexander's problems because he put himself in harm's way, i.e. the shadow's way, in order to help me. So I was appreciative, and I didn't fully trust him until he showed me that he knew what he was doing and controlling the storm of the orb in the chamber, and it was incredible. I never expected to see anything like that in my life. It was something like a wizard would do. It was like magic, pure magic. And let me see how I could put this. Alexander knew, I suppose on some level, that it would take a great sacrifice, perhaps, to bring me through the portal. Because at this point I was tainted by the shadow and I would not make it through. And I think he realized that it was not worth it to either go through the steps in order to make that happen, or there would be too much time, or something like that. But instead of telling me this, instead of saying, we can't make this work, instead of saying, I guess it would be difficult for him to tell me the truth back then, because I wouldn't have believed it. I mean, who would have believed that Alexander was hundreds of years old and was using tortured blood to keep himself alive? Of course, nobody would believe that, but he instead guilted me. Uses the guilt I had after torturing prisoners and finally coming to a breaking point after I did something truly heinous and unforgivable. And then he turned it on me and said, "You're right. You should go make an concession for me and sacrifice yourself to the shadow, offer yourself up as your own sacrifice, and therefore at least I can make it through." That's horrible. I understand if Alexander, he claimed that he thought I was acting monstrous and whatnot, and I don't deny that. I did back then. I all put those actions on Alexander, but I agreed to it. I agreed to do that. So I understand that that was on me for choosing to go along with what Alexander said. But that does not excuse the fact that Alexander turned it around and blamed it all on me for all this violence, and basically continued to blame me even as I continued to go towards the inner sanctum to stop him, because he said if I had just let the orb shadow kill me immediately, none of this would have happened. So basically he said, it's all your fault. And in today's language, I call bullshit on that. It was also his fault. I'm not denying my part. I definitely had a lot of fault in this. But he wanted my orb. He called me over. He offered me help. And he betrayed me. And that is why I have a hard time forgiving him. Because I understand why he wanted to go. I understand he couldn't truly help me. But it still doesn't excuse how he went about it. He could have just simply said, "We can't do this. I'm sorry, Daniel. You are too tainted to go through the portal. I'm sorry. If there's anything you can do to help me out, I would appreciate it, but it's not necessary. I would appreciate if you bought me some time to get through the portal before the shadow arrives." I would have understood that. I would have been devastated still, but I would have understood that. Instead, all the guilt on me. That is the part that I have a hard time forgiving. I've gotten better. I was a lot worse back when I started this whole thing, but I'm still quite angry about it. It's not been an easy road, and I've had a lot of opportunities to forgive Alexander, and I'm just not ready yet. I know it's been nearly 5 years, but I'm just not ready yet. I'll get there, hopefully, at some point, but it is not this day. Until that day, it will just probably be my last obstacle from Benneberg, I think. That's the last thing tying me back to the past. Granted, a number of things are too, but that's the worst one. This is what I understand. It's like forgiveness takes time. You can't just do it just because you think it's the right thing to do. And most of the time I do believe it is the right thing to do. I understand you don't forgive them for their sake. You forgive so you can move on. And that you don't let their poison continue to affect you. But the point is that it's hard for me to let go of that because I still think about it and I still get so angry and upset that he betrayed my trust like that. That's my dog. You might hear barking, I'm sorry. You might see me doing mundane tasks around here because I've got 2 little dogs to take care of. Yes, it's I don't know. All I know is that I'm here now. I'm still alive. I'm back to having a semblance of a normal life, and I couldn't be more grateful to actually have this opportunity, this chance, to try and be a better man, and learn from my mistakes, and not repeat them, even in the mundane world. And there they go. Who's barking right now? This is Buffy. You come down from there. Are you coming in? Are you coming in? Let me see if I can show you them. 1 second. There they are. That's Buffy. That's Sparky right there. Sparky's being difficult because he hasn't eaten yet today. I've tried everything. Will you eat something if I give it to you? Alright, you're gonna watch me feed the dogs now. Because they need to eat. Sparky, let's go. You should have put something in here for them. Over here, come on now. These dogs are so difficult, I can't even begin. Oh, over here, come on. Come here, boy. Let's go. Let's do it now. Sorry you can't see this. Really? You're not going to eat that? Unbelievable. See if I can even do this appropriately. Are you going to eat that? Did you eat that? You haven't eaten all day. Come on now. Let's go. There we go. Jeez. Took him forever. You don't like eggs. I'm giving this to Sparky. You don't like eggs. Look. You're going to just spit that out. God. Well, he's eating this. That's at least good. He likes the yolk. That's the best part. Eggs are quite good, aren't they? See, and you just chewed that up. You won't even eat the egg, so what are you doing here? Besides, this is for him. You ate for him. You ate for him. Here. There's a little bit of the yolk. You want that? Ah, you haven't clearly met my dogs then. They're very stubborn when it comes to food. This one right here, very stubborn. Sparky definitely is. Difficult to get him to eat anything. Oh, look, you're making a mess. Are you going to eat any of that? Alright, I think you don't want that. I'm going to clean up your mess off the floor because you just want to chew it up and spit it out. Right, I've got another one. I'll get you to eat that because you're such a pain in the ass. Here we are, more yolk. Nobody cares about the whites. Oh my god. Look at the mess you've made. I can't believe what I've done with you. I don't like it. Yes, welcome to a live stream where Daniel feeds his dogs. You are picky. Picky? Yes, you are. Aren't you? Aren't you, boy? Would you have a piece of the yolk? Buffy, you're making a mess. You did a lot. Good God. I think that's all of the yolk in this one. Alright, there's one left. I guess I might as well give all of these to you since you're that hungry. Not wanting to eat this morning. Ah, West Highland Terriers. They're the most stubborn dogs I've ever seen in my life. I have to clean up that mess you made a little before. After this is done. Because you're messy, messy dogs. Alright, you only seem to want the yolk. Buffy, I can't give you any of this. You won't eat it. Here, you know what? I'll give you 10 pieces for your dinner. Right? Alright. You good now? Oh, God, let's do this. Less than 4. stop barking. This. All right, now we go back. Back where we were. All right, there we are. Oh. Sparky is 10, Buffy is 9. Had them a long time. Oh, God. Yes, yes, they are. I tell you, though, dogs might be a bit of a pain sometimes, especially these two, but it is quite nice to have. They have that unconditional love that's just wonderful about dogs. Had to beat that. Sparky is circling my chair. You feeling better? Hopefully you'll eat an actual dinner when I feed it to you later. You stubborn, stubborn dog. Absolutely, that's the best part. When you get home and they're running towards you, all excited. That's the best feeling for a dog owner. Sorry, lighting here is being a bit bizarre. I wouldn't want to have a rat as a pet. See them almost all the time running around London, disgusting little things. Actually, sometimes disgusting big things. Trying to get the lighting to be a bit more consistent instead of flashing back and forth. What can you do? What? I'm not a heathen, I believe in God. What does that have to do with liking rats? You people are bizarre. London is a place of opportunity and lots of good people, good jobs, all that sort of thing, but it's also very dirty. It's a bizarre joke to make. Is that a joke now in your times? Calling people heathens? Bizarre. I don't know. I'm still learning over the course of these years how to communicate with all those who supposedly live. What? You live like what? 200 years in the future or something? I can't even comprehend that. Ugh. Been sleeping better at least, but not as well as I should have. At least I'm not only getting, like, at most 4 hours of sleep a night as I used to in Brandenburg. That was awful. But definitely a lot better. Now I get 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night. Now, no, there are sometimes days where it catches up with me. Try to stop self-medicating so much. Difficult to wean myself off the laudanum. That was not pretty, but managed it at the very least. Yeah. Very addictive stuff, that is. I thought I slept enough last night. I suppose not. Then again, as I get older, I seem to need more and more. It's very frustrating. Not. I mean, I suppose I am still young. I'm 29 now, but I seem to feel a lot more youthful when I was nearly 25. It's amazing what a difference just 4 years can make. Yes, laudanum does not taste good. Most, if not whole, medicine doesn't. What's actually been difficult is trying to get myself to in a better schedule of eating. Not great. Girls in my school when I was a child. I was homeschooled for a lot of my young life. I did not live in London my entire life. I was not privy to the expensive, lovely, fancy schools back when I was a child. It was Hazel and I and my parents. I didn't start going to a formal school until I was about 12 or 13. And by then, yes, it was an all-boys school. I got very lucky in the fact that I was able to move out to London to go work at the university. Go there to learn and also then to work as Professor Herbert's assistant. Was fortunate because Mayfair, as some of you may not know, is a very wealthy section of London. Has been for a long time. I am not, how you should say, an aristocrat by any means, but I was fortunate enough that I had the money and ability to stay there once I finally moved to London. That I could recommend. I'm not... I suppose London is a good place to visit for a number of reasons. There's so much history here. So many stories have been based in London, that's for sure. Have you now? Oh, I wonder if in the future you have seen my old house. I wonder who's living there now. Oh, to think when I finally pass on, my legacy is going to be the worst time in my life, and that's all people will know me for. That's what happens, though. That's what happens when you go through something as extreme as that. This is reminding me, I haven't visited Miss Amandus in a long time. I should really see how he's doing. He seems to have taken things that happened to him even harder than I have. But again, I don't know his whole story, so the lighting on this loves to change very randomly. Oh, by keeping this tight, I might pass out on camera. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? California? That's quite a ways away from here. I've only been to the States once. It'd be quite nice to go back again. Mostly to New York, because New York and places like Boston and whatnot have amazing museums, a lot of art culture there. DC as well, that'd be nice. One of these days I'll make it back there. I haven't travelled in a long time, not since Brandenburg. Mostly kept in London. I actually just kept myself in England since. But it'd be nice to get out again. Explore the world as I'd wanted to. Shouldn't let that traumatic experience get in the way of me enjoying my life. Trying to gather the semblance of the life I had. Definitely putting a new perspective on things. You want to go out? A moment. See if my dog's going to go outside. You want to go out there? No? You just want to stare outside? That's fine. Going to Prussia was the first time I've ever been there. I haven't been in that area before. That general vicinity. So, I suppose not, if it's the name of it has changed now in the future. I have not been there except for Brandenburg. Alright, so Brandenburg was what is now modern Poland. That's what it's called now? Poland? Fascinating. I'm learning about history that's going to happen in the future. I don't know how I feel about this. London and England doesn't change. They stay the same, right? That'd be kind of bizarre if that changed in the future. Ugh. Ugh, I think I need a pick-me-up. Quite tired. So you know what? Let's see here. We'll drink something that's got a bit of a kick. Actually, more like caffeine. Well, I'm sure I wouldn't. I'm sure London and everywhere I know probably has changed massively. I mean, look at all the changes that have happened just over the last 100 years from where I am. It's just incredible. I'm sure it's even more so since everything that's happened. Also, don't ask how I got this. A lot of different cultures. Well, it's always fascinating to learn about other cultures. Ugh. Trying to think if there's anything else that's changed over a while that I haven't really brought up or talked about. Hazel's fine. Visit her occasionally every so often. Still holding on. Much longer than the doctors expected. I really hope she can make it. I already talked about job coming along. Slow but sure. Brutus is fine. Keeps eating all my sugar. Really annoying. But still a good friend, of course. Yes, Hazel's quite well. Oh, I could be doing performance acts on the street if I could read minds. Believe me, I'd be trying to turn that into a lucrative opportunity, but no. Although, I'm not sure if I want to read people's minds, so there's some things that are just best left unsaid. I recently heard there was an update to this experience that group of people made about my life. Something about hard, I don't know. Hard mode, I think it was called? But I'm not sure what that means. I have no idea, but apparently it's some addition to my story. I guess, oh, I suppose you all have heard of it. Oh, you'll be playing it. Do you mind if I come and watch? Should I come along and talk while you play? I wouldn't want to be a distraction, of course. I could just sit back and watch. Maybe my life is a lie. What are you talking about? Don't joke about that. That's horrible. Oh, God. Oh. Pardon me for a moment. My notes. Let's see this. Quite like autumn, but unfortunately my body doesn't. It always seems to act up in spring and fall the most. Am I proud of it? I suppose on some level. It's not like I tote it around as a badge of honor or something like that. I'm content, pleased, happy to be British, but I don't know if it goes beyond that, if that makes sense. I hope you all have fun plans for Halloween. This person obviously is going to do some kind of stream like this. I, on the other hand, will be working and then coming home and possibly handing out treats. I certainly didn't participate in Halloween right after Bloomberg for a while. It was about 2 or 3 years it took. It's only been the last year to finally decided to get back into it. I like, what? What are you talking about? Don't ask. I suppose you would have to like Halloween if you liked my sword, because my sword is quite horrifying. The Gatherers would certainly fit well in a Halloween setting. Blend right in. Do you actually celebrate Samhain? Really? Are you pagan? Oh, well then it's my turn to call you a heathen, isn't it? Well, I'm of course, wouldn't exclude talking to somebody just because they have different beliefs than me. It's all part of why I love archaeology. Exploring other cultures, people's belief systems. Other ancient religions have always fascinated me. They were always interesting. Like, Mr. Mendes particularly had a big fascination with the Aztecs and the Mayans, I've heard. I'm trying to get a bit more specifics out of that, but he won't give me anything else. I'm sure it's a touchy subject. I'm not sure what that means, but I haven't heard of that particular church. I personally am an Anglican. I think Mr. Mendes is Catholic. I'm not entirely sure. I could ask him next time we meet up. God. You want to go outside? Have at it then. Sometimes you just want to bark. Bark, 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 bark. Yes, as I said before, I apologize for the dog barking noises in the background. They're quite loud. And constantly telling them to be quiet only works about 30% of the time. Yes, so best to let them run and get it out of the system. Mormon. Bit controversial, that one, isn't it? At least from what I read on this internet thing. I will tell you, this whole experience with the shadow and whatnot definitely did have me questioning my faith and beliefs, but you know, I understood that. I think I came around to the fact that if God was almighty and stuff like that, wouldn't he be able to have all these things in the universe and whatnot? Not just Earth, not just our realm of understanding. But I can certainly understand why it would shake some people out of it. Association, yes, I can understand that. There are certainly a lot of people who are associated with certain religions and whatnot. I can understand people not wanting to align themselves with that sort of thing. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter what label you assign to yourself, there's always going to be people in it that you don't like. Well, this is a sad fact of life. But as I've said before, I've never let a difference in religion stop me from associating with anyone. Yes, understandable. It's actually quite sickening how much dissent there is just among denominations of Christianity. I might be Anglican and then Oswald Madness might be Catholic, but that doesn't stop me from talking to him. Might have different ideas of how to express there's certain things, but all in all, it's a bit of a touchy subject, I imagine. But those who are here, from whatever your background is, you're welcome here. You obviously are interested in me enough to come and talk to me. Whatever I've done, gone through, or what I believe. I see. Well, I hope your first experience with all that is fun. I couldn't do something like that. I couldn't do anything involving rituals, incantations, or whatnot, especially after everything I've done in Bernberg. Not for me. You know, still have nightmares about that first warding ritual I did? And about some of the ones that came after that, when I got really into it? Sometimes I still wake up from nightmares about that. And it's sickening to think. That was me. Me now was me then. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. Oh, it's been a long road, long journey from Bernberg. Next year we'll make it 5 years. 5 years since I was a 25-year-old man going through Bernberg. And this year, (1843). Oh, God. I would like to, of course, add that I thank and appreciate you all for coming and spending some of your busy schedules and lives with me. I can't believe I'm worthy of your time after all this, but It's nice to know. Nice to know that my life has had an impact, in a positive way, that is. I'd been quite busy for a while, but started to use that blog again. All in all, thank you for coming. That's what I can say for sure. And I'm not going to keep this a very long stream, as I've tended to do in the past, because unfortunately I have quite a bit to do. So, another hour or two most. And unfortunately then I have to get back to my boring, mundane life. But that's just what it is. You never understood how much you appreciate regular, mundane, boring life until you've gone through something like Brennenberg. You realize, you know what? Maybe that dreadful routine wasn't so bad after all. Maybe I should have learned to appreciate what I have. And this button keeps coming undone. I should bring this to the tailor and have them fix it. Alright. This one is holding well. I wonder what this one's deal is. Scratching at the door. Come on in, both of you. Let's go. You want to say something? Okay, you just want to walk away. Never mind. Yes, that was something important. I'm actually glad that Wine and Agrippa finally got due credit for everything. They certainly had been through a lot, and I was grateful that, especially Wyatt got the recognition he deserved. He pulled most of those things off. I just got Agrippa out of there. And I have definitely had nightmares about losing Hazel. More than once, for sure. I would not like to think about that for any extended period of time. It's one of those things where I've sort of tried to prepare myself for when it inevitably does happen. Because I like to hold on hope that Hazel might make it through. But at the same time, I know I have to prepare for the worst because the worst is very likely to happen. The problem is, a sudden death is always devastating. But one that you're prepared for, you might feel that you're ready, but in actuality, you never are. You never are ready for that kind of loss. You could try to prepare your mind and any sense of the word, thinking of what it would be like without them, but the finality of it doesn't truly hit you until they're actually gone. One moment. What's he doing? You guys will have dinner in a little bit. Not yet. Stop that. Oh. But yes, I have indeed had nightmares about losing Hazel, and I'm grateful that more people have learned about Agrippa and Wya's story and involvement in all of this. Apparently, Wya had opened up a portal with Agrippa's orb a long time ago, and Wya went through it, wanted Agrippa to, but Agrippa was too afraid and did not, and Alexander felt betrayed by all this, because he wasn't invited either. But Wya, in exchange, was trying to argue on his behalf in Alexander's world to sort of release his banishment so he could come through, but Alexander wasn't having any of it, and that's why they were at a stalemate. Oh dear. Did you lose someone important to you? I'm sorry to hear that. There's always that internal debate. On some level, I know Hazel wouldn't be suffering anymore if she was gone. But at the same time, you don't want to lose them no matter the cost. I'm sorry. My mother passed recently, about 2 years ago. I didn't want to bring it up on the blog. Not something that's really... I've got enough negativity on that thing. It's one of those things where you're never prepared. You're never prepared for that kind of close loss ever, really. But I'm sorry for your loss. And I'm sure she's looking down on you, proud of you. At least I would hope so. Please, it's alright. I've done my grieving and whatnot. Those years ago. I am a bit of a private person when it comes to that. I don't like to grieve openly. I don't like to do so to make a big fanfare about it, or in my detriment, I don't like to ask for any kind of help. But I know I need time to deal with it in my own private way. And therefore, I just dealt with it that way, and here we are. Here we are, hopefully growing stronger through the grief, and carrying a piece of that person with us always. That's the best you can do. It's just not easy. Life has never been easy, never meant to be easy. Well, this has been a grim conversation. I have no idea what to bring it next to try and raise the spirits in here, but I hope everyone has been doing well. I hope you've been staying away from any orbs. I hope you've been having a decent life up until now, and that you continue to have one that is good, that you enjoy, that you do what you love. I am bad at inspirational speeches, believe me. This was never my forte. I've always been good at being a student, being an assistant teacher, and now I'm trying to learn how to be an actual professor in place of Herbert, and yes, that's, I guess I said, taken a while. I'm almost there, though. Within, hopefully the next year, I might be able to finally take on his mantle, which would be quite impressive, and I would finally be able to address myself and introduce myself as Professor Daniel. Well, thank you. I've certainly learned to articulate myself better over the course of explaining everything that happened in Benneberg. Bizarre. I'm afraid not. As I said before, I'm a private person. I would like to keep some aspects of myself private. You know plenty more about me than you should. But that's as far. You know what my name is? At least my first name. You know where I live. I think that's more than enough. Hmm. Hmm. But yes, I'm on my way to becoming an archaeology slash little bit of history professor, as has been my ambition for quite some time. Just didn't expect to be taking Herbert's place. And no, I have not seen him since the whole Brennenberg thing, the whole trip to Algeria. I can only assume that he is dead, that the shadow got him. He's been just reported missing since then, and never been seen since. If only I had known what I was getting myself into. If I had known, I wouldn't have even gone on the damn trip. Granted, maybe I would have. Maybe I would have just wanted to see it, but then not have touched it. I don't know. This is the problem of human beings, that we like to make the same mistakes over and over again, because of our damned curiosity. We want to know everything about the world, about the universe. We want to know all the secrets, and yet we're not prepared when we actually get them. How interesting and ironic is that? Oh no, Professor Herbert was almost twice my age. Let's see. When I was 25, he was about 40? It was in his early 40s. I don't remember, I don't think I ever knew his exact age, but he was like a middle-aged man. I was just his assistant. I had a good rapport with him because, of course, this was my intended field, archaeology. That's what I loved. Of course, we had a special rapport as teacher and student. I first had him as a professor, and then I eventually graduated and then went on to help him in his classes, and that's how it all happened. And so he wanted to go on Algeria for a archaeology trip, asked if I wanted to come along, and I said of course, because why not? What archaeology student wouldn't want to be involved in finding history? And I should have said no. I should have said no, but I wanted to be there. I wanted to be part of the whole thing, because who knows? I thought we were going to find something and be able to bring it back to the British Museum, and then we would be famous and all that sort of thing. Our names would be recorded in the history books that we found this ancient relic from years past that was part of this long extinct civilization. But nothing like that happened. Nothing like that happened, just a whole bunch of horror instead. And Herbert presumably died, and a part of me died in this whole process. A big part of me died in this whole process. But that's the nature of something this large happening. You're never the same afterwards. Keeping an eye on my dogs. Oh, it's been a rough ride. Suppose this is Ask Me Questions hour, so feel free to keep throwing them at me. I can't guarantee I'll answer all of them if they get too personal, but I'll try to answer what I can, since everyone seems to have a fascination with me. Good to dispel some mysteries, I suppose. Henry, no. I lost contact with him after school. I have no idea what he's doing with his life, if he managed to pull himself together, or if he's still a brute. But I did reminisce about him when I started helping Alexander with the torture and everything like that. Once everything came crashing down around me, I realized I'm more similar to him, Henry, than I would like to think. He took out his anger on all of us because he had a bad family life. Now, I had a bad family life growing up as well, but I didn't take it out on anyone, at least not back then. I kept it internal. I tried to be strong for my sister. I didn't want to set a bad example for her. I wanted to be the strong, silent type that kept it all in and persevered despite the odds. And as horrible as a man my father was, and in some respect I wanted to make him proud, I don't think that ever really happened. And I can only hope Henry has a better life now and that he's escaped all those demons, but I can't make guarantees of that, because I escaped my demons for a long time during my youth, but they caught up to me later in Brandenburg because all of that repressed anger came out. All the stuff I've been holding back inside me for years, came out when I was given that authority over the prisoners. When I was given the power to do the warding rituals by myself. It all bubbled up, and it overflowed to the point where I even became scared of myself. It got to be too much. And I think the fact that I went overboard with it is probably what solidified Alexander's idea to bar me from the final ritual, or not help me when he should have tried harder. But he should have also realized that that wasn't really me. We had known each other for a little while up until that point. I guess seeing that dark underbelly of humanity within me was just too much for him to handle, even though he had done far worse and for much longer periods of time. Guess it's just okay for him, but not for me. But I've had some very harsh self-reflections after Brandenburg, that's for certain. Some harsh looks at myself and realizing that all those people I thought I was at least better than, I'm not. And thanks to all the things I've done in Brandenburg, I'm in fact worse. But if I were to encounter Henry at this point, there's no way I'd let on the things I've done. Not to mention the fact that they were incredibly heinous, illegal, the list goes on. But who would want to admit that? Who would want to bring that sort of thing up? How has your life been? Oh, it's wonderful. I escaped a terrifying supernatural orb and its shadow, and tortured people in order to sustain my own life. How have you been? I hope you stopped being a bully in school. How can you even compare the two? I always had that potential in me, and I just let it take over for a little while. That was my fault. One moment. Buffy keeps going to the door and barking. God. This has certainly been a reminiscing, wonderful trip down memory lane. I remember when I used to do these more often. Quite a number of years ago in the morning. Oftentimes I would go through that terrible experience by playing that damned whatever game experience thing that would relive my life, which is wonderful. And I would be quite more emotional during those times. It was all still very fresh. Now I am older and more tired, and would rather not go through all that experience. At least not by myself. If the person in here who said they were going to go through that hard mode, whatever it is, I'll watch. The whole point of recovery is to face your demons, right? Being able to confront it head on. Just come to terms with the person who I was, who I am, and everything in between. And who I intend to be, which is to be better. My hair's a mess. I'm not good at... Well, I would love to start my own family. At least I did before everything happened. Now I'm not sure if I'd be able to, with how damaged I am. I would like, at the very least, to find a relationship, but how could I? With how broken and messed up I've become. How could I be fully vulnerable around a woman, and how could a woman fully accept me for what I did, who I am now? Or even understand all the things I went through? I mean, I have proof, I have Brutus with me to prove that I'm not making this all up, but at the same time, who would want to get involved with someone that's all that? You can find men who don't have this kind of baggage, and I don't blame them for it. But if I could find a woman that patient, that kind and understanding, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I would just be baffled that she would be that devoted to me to want to stay through everything like I've done, etc. And I wouldn't mind having children. I just wouldn't want to pass on my own demons. I would hope that I would be a better father than my father was. But I can't guarantee that kind of thing. There's always that internal fear a child has, especially with a bad parent, that you'll end up just like them. Or at least end up imparting those same parenting habits onto your children. I'd hope so. I would hope to think I'm not that bad looking, and that I at least have something of myself together. I've got a decent career. I've got a nice place to live, and I don't know, I can only hope and keep putting myself out there. The most attention I've gotten from women has been on this internet thing, which is bizarre. I can't believe so many of you would find me attractive and whatnot after knowing the horrible things I've done. Why would that make me attractive? But hopefully, I'm sure there's a woman out there somewhere that will understand and stick with no matter what. I won't rule out the possibility, it's just being difficult finding her. Not that I've really put much emphasis on looking for love at the moment. I'm just trying to take things naturally and as they come, right now. Especially since I'm not sure if I'm fully ready for a relationship. But I will not be opposed to one. To marriage, to having children, all of that. Definitely open to it. Would like it. So I can only hope it happens. And I hope that I am a better husband and a better father than who my father was. And my children can be better off for that, instead of having the demons that I have. I would not want to impart that anyway on them. Truth be told, it also would be nice if Brutus had a chance at that, but who even knows how to undo the spell that Alexander put on him? It's probably permanent, so I don't think there's any going back. That's very kind of you to say. I would like to think that after with my horrible experiences I would have learned from my mistakes, but sometimes people have a way of restarting the cycle. Even though they've lived it and might not want to repeat it, they end up doing so anyway, and I pray to God I don't. I'm not sure what I would name them if I had children. I never really thought about names. I would like to think that would be a fun thing to hash out with my future wife, you know, to think, what about this? Or she could offer something in return, maybe pick a name that runs in the family. I don't really have any particular leanings, just something nice that would fit them well. I never really had any inklings or draws to any particular names. I'm trying to think. Jonathan is perfectly serviceable, or let's see, what else? What's with the giggle? What is amusing about this? I never really thought much about this, that's all. I used to like the name Alexander, but not anymore, so that's right out. Not a chance I'm naming my child Alexander. But there are a few that are alright. I mean, yes. Glad you find that amusing. But just typical names I don't mind so much. Perfectly serviceable, I don't mind. Samuel, that's fine. Victor's a good name. Or Walter. Or Paul. Girl names I'm not sure. Elizabeth, I suppose, or Esther. I have never really given it much thought. But, I mean, it's totally fine if you want to have children and I've already thought about names. I've just never really put much emphasis on thinking about it, especially since marriage and children seem so far away. It's not something I want to rush into. It seems like something that should happen organically. And that when you find someone who you know is the one, that's when you go for it. But not something you should rush out and cling to. The right one will hopefully come along. And the more I get myself integrated better back into society as I regain my normalcy, it'll be fine. It'll be just fine. Take it as it comes, and appreciate every day you have, because I certainly have since Brennenburg. The things you take for granted when your life flashes before your eyes is quite remarkable, really. We are down to, let's say, another half hour to an hour before I'm going to call it a night. Lots of other things to be done. What I can say for sure is that I'm still young, and I have a whole life ahead of me, and hopefully I have a long life, so I have many more things to experience. Because I never even expected to still be here at this point. There should be a lot you should always be planning to do with your life. Go out and do it. Make sure you can have the time, ability to do it. Because you never know. Never know how much time you have left. I really should find a way to get back in touch with Agrippa and Wire. It's been a long time. I wonder how they're doing. I think I last communicated with them like 2 years ago. It's a bit difficult to keep in contact with the way they're going from world to world and all. I'm sure they're on some grandiose adventures. I can't even remember how long it was the whole time I was with them. It felt like a year. Like a year's long worth of adventures before I came back home, but no time had passed when I got back here. It was as if the shadow had just taken over the rest of the castle, and that was it. The castle was in a bad state when I got back. Then again, it already was falling apart. And since then, unless Wire or Agrippa is handling it, I have not wanted to deal with any orb ever again. I'm sure Mr. Mendes feels the same way. Poor bastard. Oh, it's getting dark in here. Put the light on. Something is on my plant leg. That's quite a bit out of the way. I don't know. Possibly? I certainly wouldn't mind it. I think for travel plans in the near future, if I actually get to do it, I think I would like to stay, again, not too far. Maybe... Definitely not going to Africa anytime soon, I will still say that, but maybe a few other countries around in Europe for a little bit, and I would, as I said before, like to go visit the States. I think that would be quite of a fun experience, actually. I would prefer if somebody came with me. I wouldn't like to go alone. That would be... I mean, I suppose I could. It's not like anything's stopping me, but it's always better when you have a traveling companion. Maybe I'll ask Mr. Mendes, or see if, I don't know, maybe a fellow professor at the university would be interested in taking a trip. But as far out as Australia, I don't think so. At least not right now. Maybe as I get older and really want to see the rest of the world. So I'll say maybe eventually. But not in the near future. By near future, I mean the next 5 years. Next 5 years will be trying to get back out into the world to travel again, but only as far out as the United States, I believe. Possibly South America, I don't know. It would be fun to go to Asia, China, perhaps? I don't know. But this is all just wishful thinking as of right now. Oh. Drank all this and I'm still yawning. I'm going to actually, I think I've decided that within 20-30 minutes, we'll call this a night. So if you have any final questions for me, any things you want to discuss or hear me talk about, now's the time. It's getting late. I need to feed my dogs dinner, and I need to get some things in order. Oh, Buffy. Hmm. It might have been, I wasn't fully paying attention, but yes, my dogs do sneeze now and then. They're adorable little things. Been quite a nice light in my life after everything. Might not be ready for a relationship yet, but it certainly was nice to have a dog. A dog and a good friend with Brutus and all that. Definitely helps. Support network after a traumatic experience such as what I went through is always important. What is this? How did Alexander know English? Well, I would imagine he probably taught himself to learn all the languages here. I mean, being on Earth for as long as he was, and as intelligent as the man was, I would assume he would do whatever he can to assimilate into society as fast as possible. And let's be honest, English is quite a prevalent language in many corners of the globe, so it would have been very fortunate and important to learn that. Of course, he knows other languages as well. There's no main language in Europe. There's all different languages depending on what country you are. I mean, Alexander, of course, spoke Prussian and whatnot, but yes, he knew English very well, fluently. And he knew Latin, in actuality, which I actually know as well, from a little bit of my own studies. I'm not super, I mean, I can't speak it or anything like that, but I can read it. Write it a little bit, but mostly just read it. And yes, it makes sense that he would understand and be able to speak, write English, all that sort of thing. Hmm. Pop-Tarts? What is that? What's a Pop-Tart? A treat? A kind of food? Is it like a snack? You live in Poland? So you live close to where Alexander lives? Does that mean your ancestors were Prussian? Might be. Perhaps you and Oswald should talk. Oswald has had family history back from Prussia. Russian. Huh. Now there's a place that'd be interesting to visit. Oh, the dogs are staring at me. Don't worry, 15-20 minutes I'll be feeding you both. Absolutely. Well, that makes sense, if that's in your genealogy, wouldn't it? Greetings. As I said before, got about 20 minutes left before I have to go take care of my dogs. They're staring at me. Although, unless you guys don't mind me feeding them here. This is the time to, well, talk to me. If any of you have any questions or whatnot, I'm here to answer them. I've tried to dispel some of the mystery surrounding me, but I won't answer anything that's too personal, as I've made established quite clear on my blog. And if you hear sounds of dogs in the background, it's because I have two dogs in here, and they can be quite loud. I actually had to feed them soon. And if all of you still want to watch me, I could just do that on camera, I don't care. How close a grip on Wire's bond is? It reminded me a lot of mine with Professor Herbert. the student-teacher relationship, you know, it was that sort of thing that started professional, but they quickly became fast friends, that kind of thing, where they became actually more like best friends. And they're those kinds of friends that always hung around all the time, you know, just rarely you caught one without the other. It's not like they were attached at the hip all the time. Obviously, they had their own personalities, their own personhoods unto themselves, but they were very close, and they liked to hang out a lot quite often, and why wouldn't they? They'd been separated for centuries, of course. They'd want to spend as much time as they could catching up and everything like that. It makes sense. That's quite a long time to be separated from someone you're very close to. I'm sure that was very difficult for Alexander as well, but... I hope you don't mind. I've got to feed my dogs, so now you're gonna watch me do this. Oh, God. And this damn button has come undone, yet again. Don't understand this. Would you like to look at my dogs? They're all very... It's... yes. There they are, right there. What are you two doing? Actually, you know what? Let's not watch this. I do have new clothes, but everyone knows me for this get-up, so this is why I wear it every time I do one of these things. What would you even prefer I wear? Formal get-up? I've done that before. Alright. What shall we give you tonight? Hopefully you'll eat it. Stubborn dogs. Is this you want a fan of? Oh, come on now. Falling apart? How is this falling apart? Here. Get the light a bit better. Does this look like falling apart to you? Look, the clothes look totally fine. It's just this button keeps undoing. That's the only issue I'm having. Oh, it's... really... Yes, I'm fine. Trust me, I live in Mayfair. I can more than enough afford clothes. I'm good. But thank you for your concern. Ugh. I appreciate the concern for my well-being and my presentability. But I assure you I am quite well. Quite good. Maybe not as good as I could be, all things considered, but doing alright. Never expected people I've never met or seen before in my life to care so much for me. It's quite sweet. It really is. Alright, let's see. Perhaps after Christmas. Oh, now that lighting changed dramatically, God. Oh, jeez. Alright. I'll get a better camera for streaming one of these days. My hair? Really? Hair's a bit... just basic. I never thought it would be anything special. Also, this lighting is terrible. God. No, Sparky's hungry. Look at him. Yes, alright. Alright, I'm making it right now. I'm trying to add some flavor to your food, but it doesn't have to make such a disgusting noise. Okay. On some men, long hair definitely looks attractive, and that's why I've kept it, because honestly, quite a few people I know told me that I looked good with it, and that and honestly, maintaining short hair for me has never worked out very well. I'm too busy to get a haircut very often, so that's why I just let it grow out, but there's no way you can convince me that Alexander was a more attractive man with long hair, because he would have not been attractive with short or long, which he happened to have. But that's just my opinion. Alright. Let me move this over. Let me get to finally feeding my dogs. Here we are. Here you go. Here we go, Sparky. Let me, see if there's a good spot. Actually, you probably just won't see this, but that's alright. Come here. Come here. God. I still couldn't read the chat, so if you have anything for me to talk about from down here, I can definitely do so. Still here, I swear. I'm trying to get my dog to eat because he needs encouragement. That's how spoiled and rotten this dog is. I can't help it, he's too cute. I don't mind cats. It's just I would rather not have a pet around my house that can jump all over my books and whatnot. I am a bit protective over my things, and I wouldn't want a cat knocking things over or anything like that. These dogs at least don't jump or anything like that. Well, maybe onto a chair or something, but that's about as far as it goes. So I personally am not a cat person, but I've got nothing against them. They just don't work for my lifestyle. Ah yes, why are cats? I don't know why he hates them so much. Really not that bad. I mean, I'm not like a huge fan of them, but... Alright, the doggies. They have been fed. The animals have been fed. Are you... Let's see here. Boring. I've had many various different asks over the years on my blog, and none of them have been boring. Trust me. Absolutely none. No, it's fine. It's quite nice you put that much effort into the messages you've sent me. I'm impressed that amount of effort and everything like that. I'm just like didn't expect something directed to me would be worth spending all that time, but apparently I am. So one moment. You want to go outside? Why don't you do that? We have barking in the background, I'm sorry. Favorite animal? I'm not quite sure. Let me think on this for a moment. Of course I like them. Why not? Maybe... I think I'm actually quite partial to owls. And right as I said that, somebody just reiterated it, so there you are. Because owls have become a symbol of wisdom and mystery and strength, and I like that. It's a combination of all things I like. Oh, we won't even talk about all the other versions of myself I've seen. Tea. Always tea. When it comes to alcohol, I usually am a bit of more of a brandy person, maybe gin. Sometimes wine, if I don't want anything that strong, but I've never been a big fan of ales and beers. Taste is a bit too rank for my liking. Let's put this away now. Don't ask me how I got this. I do not drink my tea with milk often. It depends on the tea. Some teas work wonderful with milk, and others it ruins it. My favorite is not good with milk, so I don't drink it with milk. I needed to pick me up. I was yawning a lot earlier. The amusing thing is, my favorite tea is actually a rose-flavored tea, and milk would be too overpowering for the flavor, so that's why I don't use milk in my favorite tea. Some other teas are, well, perfectly fine with a bit of milk, a little dash, but yeah, not doesn't work for my favorite. Taste the feeling? What does that mean? I highly recommend it. If you have a chance. There's still quite a lot of teas out there in the world that even I haven't tried, so maybe it's some point this winter when it's especially good to have a nice hot cup of tea. Go looking around the nearby shops, see what's different that I haven't had yet. Mint tea is quite good. I don't know if it's in my favorites, but definitely a nice thing to have, especially during the holidays. Oh. The most amount of compliments I've gotten is just being on the internet. It's bizarre. I've never had anyone really compliment my looks or my voice before, but now I've gotten it endless amounts, and I don't understand. I think I'm a pretty average man. I don't know. I guess I'm wrong on that front. Don't mind me, just tidying up a little bit. Perfect. I am the furthest person from perfect. Furthest. Oh, believe me. I am what the churches call a dirty, dirty sinner, for sure. Especially since you know me from the terrible things I've done. That means I'm far from being perfect. Far from it. It's true, though. I'm just a man. I'm just a man with a lot of flaws and a lot of weaknesses that got caught up in a situation that took advantage of those flaws and weaknesses, and I let it consume me. Indeed, we aren't all perfect. We are human, and humans are fated to make mistakes. That's the way humanity is. It's the way humanity is designed. You what image on a truck? What? Me holding this? Should I pose with it for you? Well, my true self is a hot mess right now. I'm a bit of a walking disaster at the moment. How many of you could call me perfect? God. Thankful my hair's at appropriate length. I got a haircut recently. I thought it was going to look a little bit too short for this. I would look silly, but... True name? I don't remember having any false names. That's the only name I go by is Daniel. And everyone calls me Daniel in real life, as opposed to on the internet, where lots of people like to call me Dan, Danny Boy, and a combination of things. That's bizarre to me. Yes, I'm not revealing my last name. I'm a bit of a private person. You all have known more than enough about me with my things in Brennenburg. I like to at least keep some things to myself, if possible. I think you've all had enough information on me already. At least on that front. I can answer other questions, but nothing that personal. Yes, I know. I've become called Daniel of Mayfair because that's where I live. That's fine. I'm fine with that title. That works. No problem with it whatsoever. That's why people call Alexander Brennenburg. Does he have a last name? Possibly. But he kept it to himself. That's fine. But Mademoiselle Justine and Mr. Mandus both have last names that they are more than happy to share. And that's their choice. Which is odd, because I've never been a fan of the name Oswald. It is a bit of a weird name. Especially since Mr. Mandus I don't know. I think it would fit more of an ugly man, but Mr. Mandus isn't ugly. I guess so. It is a bit of a fancy, aristocratic name. The higher-ups like to call people. I don't have a fancy name because I was not raised fancy. It's, again, a matter of luck that I managed to live in Mayfair, quite a nice district of London as I do. I was not born and raised in London. Oh, 6:11. So possibly I'll have about another half hour before I'll have to go about my busy day. Vincent is quite a nice name. I suppose that's a fair point. Not all of them, but quite a few do. I will simply tell you my last name is quite simplistic, because I am not an aristocrat. I don't have a proud lineage of anything of that sort. I'm an everyman in every sense of the word. Cedric, that's quite a unique name. It's very nice. Move this about here. Put this back to where I was sitting. Oh, I did like the perspective of the other spot. How do you respond to something like that? Well, there certainly are some nobility some upper class, definitely lots of upper class, but I suppose Oswald will be more of the upper class since he lives in a mansion, all that sort of thing. As a, been building himself up from being just a simple butcher to being more of a businessman now. Trying to rise up in society, but I'm quite happy where I am. It's not very lucrative, I suppose. It's not the most elevated position, being a professor at a university, but I like it. That's sort of been my aim this whole time. Actually, more of my aim was going to be an actual full-time archaeologist traveling all over, uncovering ancient sites and whatnot, but after recent incidents, of course, I haven't done that. That dream has sort of died. Hopefully I'll get back out and exploring one of these days, but not yet. For all that pick me up and whatnot, and I'm still tired. I promise I've been sleeping better. It's just, you know, tough. Mademoiselle Justine lives in France. I don't remember the name of the exact city, but I do know that she has a last name. It's Flaubert. And that's apparently an aristocratic family, so she's definitely quite a few tiers above me. So the fact that she even gives me the time of day is a miracle to me, because most aristocrats won't even talk to you if you're lesser class than them. Ah, it's not a problem. I unfortunately don't know all of Mademoiselle Justine's details. Understandably so. Trying to answer as best I can here. Know a bit more about Mr. Mandus than her, unfortunately. She's very much a creature of mystery, that one. I guess she figures it makes her more attractive. In some respects it works, but can be a little frustrating. Details? Details on what? Mademoiselle Justine? I don't know what you're implying. Well, that's rather sweet. I used to learn how to play piano a little bit in my youth, but I've kind of dropped off with it. Actually, quite a number of creative things I used to do in my past I haven't done lately of it all. I really should consider taking it back up. But I don't know. I'm a bit more... I'm not sure. I'm a bit more of a person who likes to read and that sort of thing. Well, Mr. Manus has a thing for paintings. He's got them all over his house. Obviously a big art connoisseur, or he's trying too hard, and I'm not sure which is the right answer. Maybe it's a mix of both. Wonder if he got any of those paintings from this particular artist I heard of. Bit of an obsession with rats, from what I recall. A little bit of an infamous temper, but I don't know. Those are just rumors. I believe I have. What about him?